First this hour, a full forensic excavation has begun at a mass burial site at a former mother and baby home in Western Ireland. The remains of up to 800 children are believed to have been buried on the grounds of the institution, which was run by the Catholic Church. The home for unmarried mothers was demolished in the 1970s and replaced by a housing estate. Clemence Valler has the details.
Abused and discarded, but now hopefully soon at peace. This seemingly calm site, once host to the former Tuam mother and baby home, is the suspected gravesite of hundreds of children's remains. 11 years after the first horrifying discoveries, their bodies will finally be exhumed and identified, providing some relief for the victims and their families.
They were sentient beings. They got no dignity in life, they got no dignity in death. So hopefully now when their voices are heard, because I think they've been crying for a long time, be found.
The Tuam mother and baby home mass grave scandal was first uncovered in 2014, after local historian Catherine Corliss discovered that between 1925 and 1961, almost 800 children aged from a few weeks to 3 years old died in a home for unwed pregnant women and girls run by the Catholic Sisters of Bon Secours. Test excavations 2 years later found significant quantities of baby remains dumped in a septic tank at the location. The current project is a daunting task which will be undertaken by both Irish and international specialists, which should take 2 years to complete.
The first objective is to recover all of the human remains from the site where they are manifestly inappropriately buried, and to rebury them with respect and dignity following a consultative process with families. And we will work to establish the causes and circumstances of death.
The oppressive and misogynistic institutions represent a dark chapter in Ireland's history, which saw thousands of girls and women sent to these places against their will. It wasn't until 2021 that the Irish state issued an apology for its role in the shameful story, after years of pressure from the victims' families.
Well, for more, we're joined now by Anna Corrigan, who featured in that report. Her brothers John and William are believed to be two of the nearly 800 children who were buried on the grounds of the home. She also set up the Tuam Babies Family Group. Anna, thanks so much for being with us on the programme this evening. You were actually in Tuam, I believe, this morning for the start of the excavation, and you've described today as both welcome and difficult. Just tell us how important it was for you to be there today and how it feels to know that the search for these children is finally underway.
Well, it's been a long fight, Sharon. 2012, I found out about my brothers, and it's now 2025, so that's 13 years I've been waiting for this day. I see it as the start of the next phase of where we go to identify these children. My two brothers were born in the mother and baby home in Tuam, but only one of my brothers is on the death list, John Desmond. My other brother doesn't have a death certificate, has no reason for death, and is possibly illegally adopted to America, but marked as dead in the homes of the ledger. So there's a lot of questions and there's a lot of answers we need. I represent a group, we have 14 family members in the pit. Most people are living in the United States or they're living in America, UK. And I represent them, so I speak on their behalf. And so today is a small light at the end of a long tunnel. We have a long road to go yet. So.
Yeah, because the dig itself, it could take at least 2 years, depending on what is found. Take us back, Anna, if you will, to that day when you found out. You say it's been 13 years of campaigning. Take us back to the day when you found out that your mother had been at the home, that your two brothers were born there.
But I had gone to Bernardo's, a charity, to do some tracing on my father, who had also been in another type of institution in Ireland, the industrial homes. But then I raised questions about my mother. And in 2012, I got a phone call from Bernardo's. And the lady said, I have some information for you. I'll see you in January. We're closing for Christmas. So I said, please don't make me wait. And she broke protocol and she said, Anna, your mother gave birth to 2 baby boys in Tuam. And she said, I'll see you in January and I'll give you more information.
And your mother is now deceased, but had she ever spoken to you about her time at the home, about having had children there?
Nothing.
No. So
She
this,
married my father. She married my father, and I consider myself an only child.
and you mentioned there's no death certificate for your brother William. His name was listed in a ledger at the former home. What was the response from Gardaí, from Irish police, when you actually tried to report the fact that he was missing? You also did the same thing with your second brother as well. What kind of response did you get from the authorities in Ireland?
Well, initially, when I went to my local Garda station, when I went to report John as a missing person, they asked when it happened. I said 1950, and I thought really they weren't going to take me seriously, but they did. And the guard said, I have to check it's a valid case. And a week later, she contacted me and she took my details, and we done a sworn statement and she verified it. And it was then sent down to Tuam, and that was in September 2013. And in 2014, I went back to the police station after uncovering material about John, because John was born almost 9 pounds in weight. And by the time he was 13 months old, he was emaciated with a voracious appetite, no control over bodily functions. And then he was dead 4 months later from the measles. Now, there was a doctor working in the home, and all these nuns were trained nurses. And to see a child go from this condition of being born healthy to being emaciated with a voracious appetite, and they also wrote on his death cert he was a congenital idiot. Now, I could get no paperwork despite the fact there was a doctor working there. And I mean, I ask anybody, even going back as far as 1946, 1947, you would have a history of how a child could deteriorate so badly and so quickly. And so I went to the police and I said, I contend that John did not die of the measles. He died of neglect and malnutrition, because my mother was sending back 5 shillings a month, and the nuns were also being paid for the care and the upkeep of John and the other children in the home.
And Anna, this dig, it started today. It could take at least 2 years. What are you expecting? Are you hopeful that it will be possible after all this time to identify the remains of the children who are there, who were buried there? Some of them have been at this site since the 1920s.
I hope and I pray that all these children are found. As I said, they were sentient beings. They got no human rights in life, nor did their mothers. They got no dignity. They got no respect. They lived and they died, and nobody cared. The county council, the Galway County Council, which was an organ of the state, owned it, this property in Tuam. So the nuns actually worked for an organ of the state, different to some of the other homes in Ireland. So all work and maintenance and everything was done by the Galway County Council. But when a baby died, the nuns had to notify the council. And when they did, nobody asked any questions like, where are you burying them? Because the Galway County Council also has oversight on the local graveyards. And they knew the children were dead because they were informed by the nuns. And they also didn't check the graveyard to find out where they buried there. Or they never, I believe, asked the nuns, where are you burying them? So with the result, it just shows they were illegitimate children. Nobody cared. They were sin of somebody's flesh. A girl got pregnant. It could be incest. It could be rape. It could be a failed love affair. It didn't matter. She was pregnant and the child was the sin of her flesh. That was misogynistic, patriarchal Ireland at the time, very, very heavily influenced by the Catholic Church. And that's the time, and it took a long time for that to even start to change. I'm 70 next year myself, so I've seen quite a lot of it.
And as well as giving your brothers a Christian burial, Anna, you're also calling for the Catholic Church and for the Irish state to be held accountable for what happened at Tuam and at many other of these so-called mother and baby homes.
Somebody, Sharon, has to be held accountable. I mean, if you think about it, the people who are doing the exhumation, I have total faith in them, and they're experts in their field, and I would never doubt their integrity. But a hypothetical scenario, if they only find maybe 150 children, where are the rest of the children? What is the government going to turn around now they've made this law, which I contend we never needed, as did my solicitor. And so they say, okay, we found 150 children and that's it. Now you can go away. I'm sorry, the guards have to be involved here because I have 2 cases with the police. The coroner should be involved. There's multiple laws in Ireland that are not being adhered to, and also the European Convention of Human Rights of the rights of the family in relation to their dead relations. And there's also questions, there's questions around DNA. So there's a lot more questions being raised than answers. But I do hope and pray that I'm proved wrong and that everyone is found. But if not, where are they? Because there is evidence and anecdotal evidence. And from the charity Bernardo's, the head of Bernardo's stated that over his period of 30 years there, he's seeing death certs being falsified to broker adoptions to the United States. He did not mention Tuam, but this is what's out in the media. I also have other pieces of documentation that speaks about illegal adoptions. So are the death certs we have actually real? I represent people who have 14 family members in this pit, and we have strong doubts to whether they are there or not. But we have to let this excavation go ahead. And I'm just hoping through my solicitor that we can bring the proper uses of the law into place and to bring the proper people into place, that this will be a complete and proper excavation and completely done under the laws and of this state and the Constitution and obligations under European and international laws, which hasn't been looked at yet.
And just finally, Anna, why did it take so long for this dig to get underway? It only started today. As you say, you've been campaigning for 13 years to find answers, to find justice for your brothers.
For me, Ireland, Sharon, you're from Ireland yourself. Everything, I believe, is put on the long finger. And I've always had a mantra, delay, deny till we go away and die. That's the first thing. And the second thing, we had a very big scandal in Ireland where children, young teenagers died in a big fire where the doors were locked from the outside with chains. And it took 43 years to have an investigation into that. So by standards of Irish justice or by timelines of Irish justice, 10 years, 11 years is quite fast. We had to put a lot of pressure on. I had a lot of help from legal people, Kevin Winters, solicitors in Northern Ireland, Carl Buckley from the Guernica Chambers in London. We've also got advice from some professors who were experts in DNA. So they've steered us and guided us because we're poor, we don't have anything. So it's very hard to fight the establishment, but they have helped and guided us pro bono. But so we still have a long road to go yet, but it is the start of, I explained to somebody, it's like a book. We had chapter 1 the last 10 years. Now we're into chapter 2. So maybe the book will finish at the end of chapter 2, or maybe we may move on to chapter 3. And that's the best way I can explain it.
Well, Anna, we do hope that you find all the answers that you are looking for. Thanks so much for being with us on the programme this evening. That's Anna Corrigan, who helped set up the Tuam Babies Family Group. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you, Karen.